Girls, as we have dealt with the second chapter of our English textbook, Mindscapes, today is the last part of that chapter, Karma by Khushwant Singh. So in the last two sessions of this chapter, we have seen that Sir Mohan Lal spoke anglicized Hindustani, imitated every aspect of the British people, always had a self-ego satisfying tendency, did never care for his own wife, and though himself an Indian, always looked down upon the Indian people. On the contrary, we have seen that Mrs. Lady Lal is very much Indian in its true sense. She loved to talk with others irrespective of their occupations. She carried out all instructions of her husband without uttering a single word of protest. Their relationship was devoid of emotional attachment. And we also see that the train had steamed in the platform and Lakshmi managed to get a seat by the window in the interclass Jananak compartment of that train. But Sir Mohan Lal, on the other hand, was relishing with his scotch in the first class waiting room still. So this was the last part of the chapter, and from that part of the chapter a few questions can be very important for you, like number one, I am with my master brother. This is an excerpt from the chapter. Who is the speaker? Why does the speaker utter such a statement? Number two, write a few sentences about the relationship of Mr. and Mrs. Lal. Number three, give a few examples to prove that Lakshmi was very much Indian. Number four, give a brief character sketch of Sir Mohan Lal. And number five, these she thrust into her mouth till her cheeks bulged on both sides. This is a line quoted from the chapter. What was this bulge about? So these are the few questions, but apart from this, a lot of questions can be framed. For that, you have to go through the chapter very nicely to make a nice comprehension of the chapter and to answer those questions very nicely. Okay, so now let us move into the last part of the story and find out what the fate has in store for Sir Mohan Lal and how the title of the story, Karma, has a significance to all these incidents happened in this chapter. The last sentence we have dealt with was, how frequently had he heard English people say that he spoke like an Englishman. That was an ironical situation for Sir Mohan. Now let us move on. Sir Mohan wondered if he would be travelling alone. It was a cantonment and some English officers might be on the train. Now what is a cantonment? A military garrison or camp is called a cantonment. So he was thinking whether he had to travel all alone in the train or not. His heart warmed at the prospect of an impressive conversation. He was, very much anxious or eager to have a, conversation with some British people. He never showed any sign of eagerness to talk to the English as most Indian did. Now, this was really an aspect of self-control, as we see in the character of Sir Mohan. Indians are always noticed to have a special feeling for the white people, okay, especially the British people. But Sir Mohanlal is seen not to have that anxiousness and eagerness to talk to them unless and until they start the conversation. Nor was he loud, aggressive, and opinionated like them. Now, what does the word opinionated mean? One who is characterized by assertiveness and dogmatism. So, one who has some opinions and inflicts those opinions on others. And Sir Mohanlal was not such a character. He went about his business with an expressionless matter-of-factness. Now, matter-of-factness is an important word, is a strong word over here. That is the quality of being calm and without emotion at certain times, especially at difficult times. Now, he never showed his utter eagerness, he never showed his anxiousness, he never showed his anger or whatever to others. So he had tremendous self-control on his behavior. He would retire to his corner by the window and get out a copy of the Times. Now this is important. Now in this paragraph we will see a number of a series of incidents, series of activities that Sir Mohan does, and all those tell us about the character of Sir Mohan, how he is, and from where did he gather all such traits of his character. Now, the Times, you can well understand, the Times is the daily, the British daily national newspaper based in London, England. It began in 1785 under the title The Daily Universal Register, adopting its current name on 1st January 1788. So the Times is really a piece of show off for Sir Mohanlal as we see it here. He would fold it in a way in which the name of the paper was visible to others while he did the crossword puzzle. Now he was in a mood of showing off to others that he was reading the Times, and it was not an ordinary activity done by any other Indian. The Times always attracted attention because it suggested an activity of the elite class of the society then. Someone would like to borrow it when he would put it aside with a gesture signifying, I have finished with it. Now, if somebody asked the paper from him, he would hand it over to the person as if he had finished with it. Perhaps someone would recognize his Balliol tie, which he always wore while traveling. Now, all these things he was doing or he had on his body as his attire, part of his attire, were of all this, the mode of showing off. That would open a vista leading up to a fairy land of Oxford colleges, masters, dons, tutors, boat races, and rugger matches. Now, all these imply that he had been to London, and all these, activities, all his character traits were from that place. For example, the college, Oxford College, tutors, boat races, and rugger matches. Rugger matches means rugby football matches. If both the Times and the tie failed, Sir Mohan would cohere his beret to get the scotch out. Now, this was the third thing that he was in a habit to do on that platform. He used to call the bearer by addressing him like this, cohere, and get a scotch out of that. Whiskey never failed with Englishmen. Now, if the Times and his tie did not attract the other people, then surely his whiskey would do it. He was very confident of this. Then followed Sir Mohan's handsome gold cigarette case filled with English cigarettes. Another piece of showbiz. English cigarettes in India? How on earth did he get them? Sure, he didn't mind. And Sir Mohan's understanding smile. Of course, he didn't. So all these questions were, to come in the minds of the Indian people. Those 5 years of grey bags and gowns, of sports blazers and mixed doubles, of dinners at the Inns of Court and nights at Piccadilly. Now all these things he had done in London, and he had acquired all such qualities and traits of that elite class of society or the British people in him in only the 5 years' time. This is ironical because he had spent so much of time in India, but still those 5 years' time was important to him, and he had imbibed in him all such traits from there in those 5 years. Worth far more than the 45 in India with his dirty, vulgar countrymen with sordid details of the road to success, of nocturnal visits to the upper story and obese old Lakshmi smelling of sweat and raw onions. All these things give us the feeling that Sir Mohan was literally very much annoyed with everything Indian, starting from his own wife to the other people, which give him the feeling of dirtiness and vulgarity. Now here one word is there, that is Piccadilly. I must tell you the significance of this place. Piccadilly is a trendy street in London. It is a very famous place, England. It's a traditional center of fashionable shops, clubs and hotels. You must have heard of this place. So that is why I wanted to tell you the significance of this place. Sir Mohan's thoughts were disturbed by the bearer announcing the installation of the Sahib's luggage in a first-class coupe next to the engine. Sir Mohan walked to his coupe with a studied gait. Now, studied gait is a very important term used here for Sir Mohan. Studied gait means thoughtful manner of walking, and it was really one of the character traits of Sir Mohan. He had personality that was sure to attract others. He was dismayed, he was distressed and sad. The compartment was empty. Why he was sad and depressed and dismayed? Because he wanted to have a conversation with the British people, and instead he saw the compartment to be empty. With a sigh, he sat down in a corner and opened the copy of the Times he had read several times before. Now, again, the show-off. He had read the Times, but still he was up to reading that same newspaper just to attract others. Sir Mohan looked out of the window down the crowded platform. His face lit up as he saw 2 English soldiers trudging along, looking in all the compartments for room. Now, this incident, this activity of the soldiers on the platform attracted Sir Mohan, and he was very eager to know what was next to happen. They had their haversacks slung behind their backs and walked unsteadily. Sir Mohan decided to welcome them, even though they were entitled to travel only second class. Now see the ironical situation here. The British soldiers rather to say, they were entitled to travel second class in the train, but still Sir Mohan Lal was trying but not showing, only trying to have a conversation with these people as soon as they get onto the train. He would speak to the guard. One of the soldiers came up to the last compartment and stuck his face through the window. He surveyed the compartment and noticed the unoccupied berth. Now, one of the soldiers He looked through the window and he noticed that the compartment was nearly empty, and the unoccupied berth was also noticed by the soldier. Bill, he shouted, one air. Now, one of the soldiers said to the other soldiers that there is only one person sitting in that whole compartment. His companion came up, also looked in, and looked at Sir Mohan. Now, this soldier, who were themselves entitled to be in the second class, they got onto the compartment and looked at Sir Mohan. We came across with the word trudging. I will tell you the meaning of this word. It's a new word to you. Trudging means to walk slowly with heavy steps because of exhaustion or tiredness. Okay, so the soldiers were trudging along the platform. Now, get the nigger out, he muttered to the companion. Nigger, that's a very, very strong word, girls, because nigger means it's a contemptuous term for a black or a dark-skinned person. It's an offense to a person, okay, to whom it is being said. It is an offensive term altogether. So get the nigger out. This was the address. This was the, assertion done by one of the soldiers. And it was said to the main character, the person who always thinks himself to be at par with or equal to the British people. He was termed as nigger. They opened the door and turned to the half-smiling, half-protesting Sir Mohan. Now, Sir Mohan was a bit confused and he was puzzled. He was overwhelmed with surprise and astonishment whether he was being termed as nigger. Can it be true? Reserved, yelled Bill. Now, Bill said, one of the soldiers, Bill shouted and said, this is a reserved compartment and you cannot be here. That was the thing he wanted to mean. Janta reserved, Army Forge, exclaimed Jim, pointing to his khaki shirt. Now see the term he is speaking Hindustani, right? And why? Because in front of them, a Hindustani or an Indian was sitting and not a British. Ekdam jao, get out. The person who had been speaking anglicized Hindustani, he was now spoken to by the English soldiers in Hindi. All these are the example of irony. I say surely, protested Sir Mohan in his Oxford accent. Now, he was then again protesting in anglicized Hindustani. The soldiers paused. It almost sounded like British. The word almost is very important here. It did not sound like English, but it almost sounded like English. But they knew better than to trust their inebriated ears. They could not first trust their ears. Inebriated ears means intoxicated. They were drunk. And they could not first believe that it was an Indian. The engine whistled and the guard waved his green flag. The train was about to move now. They picked up Sir Mohan's suitcase and flung it onto the platform. Then followed his thermos flask, briefcase, bedding, and the Times. The Sir Mohan was livid with rage. Now, at this point of time, I will show you two pictures. One is one of the soldiers talking to Sir Mohan Lal, who is sitting by the window in a seat in the compartment, and the other one will show you how his belongings were thrown out of the train by the soldier. Now this picture shows that he is sitting and he is having the Times with him, and one of the soldiers is talking to him in the compartment. And this picture shows that his belongings are being thrown out from the train onto the platform. See the condition of Sir Mohan Lal. Now he was very much angry with the soldiers. He could not speak, Preposterous, preposterous, she shouted, hoarse with anger. I will have you arrested. Guard, guard. Now Sir Mohanlal came out with his feelings that were inside. He shouted, preposterous. This was utterly absurd or ridiculous. What they were doing were really ridiculous for Sir Mohan. Bill and Jim paused again. It did sound like English, but it was too much of the king's for them. Now the soldiers did nothing here, but they had, thrown out all his belongings to the platform. Keep your ruddy mouth shut, and Jim struck Sir Mohan flat on the face. Now Sir Mohan was attacked also here, and he was asked to keep his mouth shut. The engine gave another short whistle and the train began to move. The soldiers caught Sir Mohan by the arms and flung him out of the train. He reeled backwards, tripped on his bedding and landed on the suitcase. Now see the ironical situation, see the depressing and sad condition of Sir Mohan, who always thought himself to be British. He always imitated the British culture, British style of everything, but now he is being thrown out of the train along with his belongings by the British soldiers because he was not at all British after all. Toodaloo. Toodaloo means goodbye, they said. Sir Mohan's feet were glued to the earth and he lost his speech. He stared at the lighted windows of the train going past him in quickening tempo. The train, gathered momentum and it went past by him. The tail end of the train appeared with a red light and the guard standing in the open doorway with the flags in his hands. In the interclass Janana compartment was Lakshmi, fair and fat, on whose nose the diamond nose ring glistened against the station lights. Her mouth was bloated with beetle saliva, which she had been storing up to spit as soon as the train had cleared the station. Now we know that in the interclass Janana compartment was Lakshmi, Mrs. Lady Lal. She was unaware of all that happened in the first class compartment with Sir Mohan. And as the train sped past the lighted part of the platform, Lady Lal spat and sent a jet of red dribble flying across like a dart. Now, what is the dart? Dart is a small pointed missile that can be thrown or fired. Now, it was Mrs. Lady Lal spat her beetle saliva juice like a dart across the platform. And on the other hand, Mr. Lal was lying flat on the platform with his belongings. So here we end up the story, but this story has got some moral lessons for us girls. The moral lessons of the story are never to pretend to be someone, to just be who you are, because at the end of pretending stage, the truth will still be revealed. Love your own country and nationality. Be proud of who you are and never discriminate people. So this is all about your chapter Karma by Khushwant Singh. I hope you have comprehended the chapter very well. Please go through the chapter so as to have a decent understanding of each and every sentence dealt with in this chapter. Thank you, and that's all.